Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie News Top 5, the show where we count down the top 5 movie news stories of the past week. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and joining me for this inaugural installment of AMC Movie News Top 5 is production manager of AMC Movie News, Mr. Dennis Tzeng. Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the premiere episode.
Number 1.
Yeah.
All right, folks, so this is how this works. As I said, you know, every day, Monday through Friday on AMC Movie Talk, we run down the top 6, 7, or 8 stories of the day. But we've had requests for quite a long time, actually, to have a weekly roundup show where we just take the top movie news stories of the week. And it's actually kind of fun for us, too, because it gives us a chance, now that we've had a few days to reflect on some of the bigger pieces of movie news, to run down, you know, and give our thoughts now that we've had a chance to reflect on them. So that's what we're going to do right now. We are going to run down for you the top 5 movie news stories of the week. And we're going to start off with this one. At the number 5 position, DC planning 9 movies. A report from the Wall Street Journal is suggesting that Warner Brothers is working on developing no less than 9 DC comic films. The report suggests films like Shazam, Fables, Metal Men, and a few others on the list. However, no Wonder Woman film is being mentioned at the moment. The article also claims that several of the films will not be connected to the Justice League universe. Dennis, I don't think you were on the show the day that we originally covered this thing about DC planning 9 movies. So what are your thoughts on all this?
I have to believe that there is a Wonder Woman movie in the works, and it's just hush-hush, secret. They don't want to talk about it at all. They don't want to bring it up. They want to see how Justice League does and see how Gal Gadot or Gadot gets received in that movie as Wonder Woman, and then they're going to proceed. But I do think that there's probably a bunch of people working on the script and preparing for it. They just don't want to mention it. In terms of the other ones, yeah, it's interesting because a lot of those aren't like big name properties that people outside of comic book fans know about. You know, like like Fables, Metal Men, 100 Bullets, I think was mentioned as well. And I'm glad that they are going to keep those separate from whatever DC universe they are creating with, you know, the Green Lantern, the Superman, Batman, and all that stuff, because they just don't fit. So I think that's a smart move by them, because if they're trying to like imagine like something like Sandman being like jammed into the universe that they're creating right now with Justice League. I just don't think it's a proper fit.
No, I got to agree with you actually about that. And you know, what I do think is a good move here on their part is the fact that they're saying not all these films need to fit into the same cinematic universe. Like, just because we do a Fables, just because we do a Shazam, just because we do a Metal Men, just because we do any one of 100 different things they may be talking about, they don't necessarily have to be in the same world as the Justice League. That doesn't have to be the same universe. It's okay to have separate realities and separate universes for them to all have their own worlds and tell their own stories. And for me, that was the big part about this story that came out that I thought was really intriguing, that Warner Brothers gets it, that not everything has to fit in. Because if you do if you put it into the Justice League movie, you know, and Dennis, you and I joked about this before, because in, you know, Captain America 3 happens, and what's everybody start complaining about? Where was Iron Man? Why didn't Iron Man come and help him if the world is in trouble, you know? You had another one. Where was Hawkeye? Why didn't Hawkeye come in and help Iron Man in Iron Man 3 and all this kind of stuff? And I think if you get another film like, let's say if you do another film in the DC universe and have it happen in the same universe as Justice League, whether it's Metal Men or somebody else, and if the world's in trouble, well, why didn't Superman come and help? You know, I just like them giving certain characters a clean slate. Now, notice that they're not saying that all of these characters are going to be outside of the Justice League universe. I strongly suspect that Shazam, if it happens, will actually be in the Justice League universe. And I'm sure they're going to want to work other characters into that same universe, but they don't have to be. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's big to me. All right, let's go on to the top fourth biggest story of the week. And the fourth biggest story of the week was this, is the Baz Luhrmann doing Elvis. Moulin Rouge and Great Gatsby director Baz Luhrmann is reportedly in talks to direct an upcoming biopic of Elvis Presley for none other than Warner Brothers. Now, the biopic is being scripted by Kelly Marcel, who right now you may know her name because she just wrote Saving Mr. Banks, did a magnificent job on that, and she wrote the screenplay for the upcoming big screen adaptation of 50 Shades of Grey. Think what you want about 50 Shades of Grey. She didn't write the book, but the fact that she did, you know, a film like Saving Mr. Banks and now is doing 50 Shades of Grey, that should at least pique your interest a little bit. And now she's penning a script for an Elvis biopic being directed by Baz Luhrmann. I gotta tell you, Dennis, for me, I really like this news for several reasons. Number one, it's Elvis. I mean, Elvis is one of the most fascinating, popular pop culture figures of all time. And everybody knows who Elvis is. And he has a remarkable story. And you know, I was joking on AMC Movie Talk that so far I think the definitive work on the life of Elvis Presley was Bubba Hotep. With Bruce Campbell. That's the definitive Elvis movie if you haven't seen it yet.
Good movie.
But at the same time as Baz Luhrmann, I love Moulin Rouge. I wasn't big on Great Gatsby, granted, but I love Moulin Rouge. I thought that was such a creative, colorful, vivid way to do a film. Now, would Elvis have to be different? Yeah, it would have to be a different kind of a movie. But I'm telling you, I think this is huge. Huge pop culture icon like Elvis being directed by a dude like Baz Luhrmann. I think that's a huge story. I was really excited about it. What did you think about it?
I think it's a good fit, especially, you know, we had previously heard about him possibly doing a kung fu movie.
Right,
which
right.
we didn't really, that didn't sound like a fit to his style, but this is something that definitely is in his wheelhouse. And I think, you know, Elvis Presley is one of those, you know, iconic musicians that you know, in this century, in the past century, is one of the biggest ones that, you know, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, you know, there's only a handful of those. And I'm actually quite surprised that they haven't done like a big budgeted movie about him yet. They've done, I think, some low budgeted TV movies that no one's ever seen. But this sounds very intriguing. I think with Elvis Presley's persona, his songs, his dance moves, there's something that I think will spark something in Baz Luhrmann and be able to make something really creative and very visually stunning to watch.
And one of the things, too, that's got to be a bit of an appeal for this, because you just mentioned it, for Warner Brothers, the soundtrack on this movie alone will go platinum. I mean, you do an Elvis biopic and you put out the soundtrack of that. I mean, that's going to be the most iconic soundtrack of the year that people are going to buy up and probably create a little bit of an Elvis resurgence. But, and then if they do, once this film gets purely greenlit, it's going to be the new, who's the next James Bond and who's the next Batman. The big thing is going to be who's Elvis. Who's going to play Elvis? And then it'll be interesting. Are they going to go for a young Elvis? Or are they going to go for Elvis when he was a little bit older? I mean, so all that's going to be interesting. But yeah, this is a really, really cool story. All right, let's go on to the number 3 story of the week. And the third pick story this week, it was the passing of great actor, of course, Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins has passed away at the age of 71 after suffering from pneumonia and complications arising from him suffering Parkinson's disease. Hoskins, of course, is best known for his roles in films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and playing Mario in Super Mario Brothers. And I personally loved him playing Smee in the movie Hook with Dustin Hoffman and many, many others. Hoskins' final film before he retired from acting was 2012's Snow White and the Huntsman, in which he played one of the dwarves. And, you know, Dennis, it was so funny that, you know, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I would see him on the big screen. And I'd only heard about a week prior to him passing that he was even ill. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know he had retired. I didn't know he was ill. Then about a week before he passed, I heard recovering from something, and then all of a sudden he had died. And it's just weird, you know. It's just odd to think about him being gone, because he's one of those actors where he didn't have a collection of Oscars on his mantle, but man, when he appeared on a screen, even in something like Jet Li's Unleashed, when he appeared on screen, suddenly that movie felt like it had more credibility. You know what I mean? Just automatically had more credibility. And Unleashed is a great example of that, as a matter of fact. So really, it was a very, very sad day for us. We've lost just a great treasure in the world of Hollywood and one of the actors on the big screen. So anyway, your thoughts on the passing of Bob Hoskins?
Yeah, it's sad. He obviously was most well known for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I also remember him in Mermaids with Cher.
Yeah.
And he just, like you said, he had a presence about him that brought, kind of, importance and he had charisma, but he also had like a weight to him as well that not that many actors have. And yeah, it was kind of sad to hear that he was, ill towards the later part of his life, and we didn't get to see him as much as we used to, kind of in the 80s and 90s. And so, yeah, it's just a sad thing.
All right, well, let's move on to the number 2 story of the week. And I think we all knew what the top 2 are, and it's all just a question about what's number 1 and what's going to give it away here. But the number 2 story of the week is they officially announced a Justice League movie. It was officially announced that Warner Brothers will go into production on a Justice League movie that will most likely release in 2017. The studio has also confirmed that Man of Steel and Man of Steel 2 director Zack Snyder will indeed direct the film when it goes into production. Now, a rumor has also started surfacing claiming that Justice League will actually shoot back-to-back with the current shooting of Man of Steel 2. There's been no actual confirmation of that. That is just the prevailing rumor. So, I mean, look, Dennis, worst kept secret in Hollywood that they're going to be doing a Justice League movie. But still, your thoughts on the announcement that it's official now, they're doing it, because it wasn't official until now. And the more interesting part of that Zack Snyder is going to be kept on to direct the project.
Yeah, we had kept saying for months, like, even though a lot of our questions into the show are about Justice League, we always kept saying, you know what? It's actually never been officially announced. Everyone keeps talking about it, but DC themselves and Warner Brothers never actually said, "Oh, we're doing one." We just assumed they were doing one. Obviously, we were correct. But the more fascinating part is Zack Snyder. I think he's the solid and safe choice for this. He's already done Man of Steel, which was very successful. He's done an ensemble comic book cast before with Watchmen. He's done a lot of visual effects work with all his movies and action. And I think there's rumors about Ben Affleck possibly doing Justice League, but I think for his first outing that might have been too big. I mean, even for someone as talented as Ben Affleck, for him to do this huge, big budget tentpole movie with a lot of visual effects, with a lot of the cast, huge cast, plus himself starring in it as well. So I think it's better that this also isn't officially announced, but we're speculating that he will, direct the standalone Batman movie, and I think that's something he'll be able to get a better handle on. So I think it's good news all around.
I think you're right about that, because I think I was one of the guys that really, I believed, well, look, we all know that when you do something, you're Warner Brothers, and you do something like bring in Ben Affleck to be Batman, part of the appeal for them getting him was also to get him as a director. And I did assume that he was going to direct Justice League. I wasn't like 100% sure about that, but I was one of the guys, I kind of assumed that he would be directing Justice League. But I think you raise an excellent point about saying, hey, you know what? Starting Ben off in this universe with the Justice League film, considering he's also acting in it, that might be a bit much. Let him just start with Batman. Like, is it safe to assume that all of us now are assuming he will direct the first standalone Batman film? Is that a safe assumption?
I think we all are, and I think we're probably gonna get proven right.
Yeah, I got to believe that too. And look, everybody knows I loved the job that Zack Snyder did on Man of Steel. I loved it. I'm totally good with him directing Man of Steel too. But should we be concerned a little bit, because you used the word, and you used this word before too? Should we be concerned a little bit that in moving forward even more, that Warner Brothers is going with the safe choice in a Zack Snyder instead of maybe rolling the dice on another director to bring into the project?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is studios are mostly known for making safe choices. They're very risk averse, you know, and that's why sometimes when we see a movie that maybe was kind of risky with either a risky casting choice or a risky directing choice and having it hit big, I get even more excited because I'm like, wow, the studio actually took a chance on that and it paid off big for them, and I congrats to them. In this case, it's such a big property and so many eyeballs are looking on it, so much money's riding on it. I think they just said, hey, maybe next time we'll try something new, but let's go with the safe one this time.
All right. Well, then, this will be, the worst kept secret in Hollywood was that they're going to do Justice League movie. Maybe the second worst kept secret in Hollywood will be then what's going to be our number one story of the week. Before we get to that, let's just run down for you again what the top five have been up till now. In the number 5 spot, of course, is that DC plans for 9 more DC comic movies. At number 4, Baz Luhrmann is going to be doing, it looks like he's going to be doing an Elvis movie. The number 3 story of the week, the passing of Bob Hoskins, really sad story there. The number 2 story of the week, which would have been number 1 in almost any other movie news week this year, but is the official confirmation of a Justice League movie, which brings us down, of course, to the number 1 story this week, that they had finally announced the cast of Star Wars. Now, the Star Wars Episode VII coming out next December. So before we comment on it, let me just remind you guys about who is this cast that they announced. So starting off, we've got John Boyega. You'll recognize him from such films as Attack the Block. A total relative newcomer in Daisy Ridley, most known for a small show she does called Scrawl, which I must confess I have never seen. And I'm only speculating. Nothing says she's going to be Princess Leia's daughter, but I'm just speculating, man. She looks like a real young Carrie Fisher to me. Also, this one we've heard about and known about for a while, Mr. Adam Driver. He's been a really hot commodity in Hollywood. A lot of projects seeking after him. He's known for shows like Girls. He was in Frances Ha and Inside Llewyn Davis. And speaking of Inside Llewyn Davis, Oscar Isaac, who was amazing in Inside Llewyn Davis, just a really talented actor. They've got him on board as well. And speaking of talent, just a guy quickly turning into a legend in Hollywood, Andy Serkis, best mocap performer in the history of the business. Also a pretty darn good little actor and director in his own right. He's going to be in the new Star Wars as well. From the film About Time and Dread, Domhnall Gleeson. Once again, I didn't love About Time, but I was really floored by this dude's performance in it. He elevated his performance beyond just a standard rom-com performance, and I thought he was quite good in it. And kind of like the Alec Guinness kind of casting. And this thing is Max von Sydow, who, of course, you'll recognize him from 1,000 different films. One of the most distinctive voices in Hollywood. Films like Minority Report, Shutter Island, Robin Hood, done by Ridley Scott. And, of course, all these actors are joining the more familiar faces of Star Wars. Anthony Daniels back as C-3PO. Carrie Fisher back as Leia Organa Solo. Harrison Ford back as Han Solo. Kenny Baker back as R2-D2. Peter Mayhew, it was announced last week, back as Chewbacca. And of course, Mark Hamill back as Luke Skywalker. Dennis, I had mentioned this when we had done the show before. The first time the story came out, I believe it was on Monday. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, I am floored by this because 2 things stand out to me. Number 1, this is a talent-heavy cast, not a fame-heavy cast. When you look at all these new names, what really jumped out to me was this is not a famous cast, but this is a talent-rich cast. So that's the first thing that jumped out to me. The second thing that jumped out to me was the fact that thinking of as a football manager or a baseball manager or the general manager of a hockey team, I look at this cast relatively young, still in the early stages of the career. If this was a basketball team, this was a team that was put together to be together for the next 10, 12 years to make championship runs. This is a cast, when I look at it, that looks like it's been put together to be a long-term cast. I think we are going to have now a new generation of Star Wars fans growing up with these names and these faces. And to me, that's just brilliant. Very excited. They brought back the old guard as well. We'll see what kind of a role they play in it as well. A story came out also this week that Harrison Ford's role was actually going to be a quote-unquote major role in the film and not just some small little pseudo cameo appearance by Han Solo. That's very interesting too. But anyway, Dennis, you look at this casting, the news, the whole thing on the Star Wars stuff. What is your reaction?
Well, it's good to see J.J. Abrams is kind of pulling a 70s George Lucas, 80s George Lucas move by hiring relatively unknown actors. I mean, I think the biggest name on that list is probably Andy Serkis, and even that name, to the casual movie-going audience, they really don't know him as well. But it's like instead of the George Lucas of the 90s and 2000s, who did go for the fame-heavy Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, you know, like that whole cast. This one is, like you said, built to last in terms of like how young they are, how talented they are. You know, I trust J.J. Abrams. I liked what he did with Star Trek. You know, some people complain about it, but I think, you know, even if people who are complaining do see that he was kind of doing a Star Wars-like Star Trek movie, and it kind of was like practice for this, and I think he's going to do a good job. I don't know if you played this game, though, which is, when I saw the list, we don't know anything about the story, right? We don't know about the characters, anything like. This is what I did. I did, you know, this is the terms from pro wrestling. I did the who's the heel, who's the face type of thing. And so I was like, oh, John Boyega, he's going to be a face. Daisy, she's going to be a face. Adam Driver, he's going to be heel. Oscar's going to be a heel. Andy Serkis is going to be a heel. Dom Nall is going to be a face. And Max von Sydow is going to be a heel.
If I had to run them down, I go John Boyega, face. Daisy Ridley, face. Adam Driver, heel. Oscar Isaac, I'll go face. Andy Serkis, face. Domhnall Gleeson, I'll go heel. And Max von Sydow, I will also go face.
Oh,
I'll go face. And then, you know, here's the question now. The question revolving around Andy Serkis. Are we going to see Andy Serkis as a physical performer in the film, or will he be the mind and the master behind a motion capture animated character? And I'm good with whatever they do. I mean, he's not Jar Jar Binks, folks. No. He's the guy who gave us Caesar in Planet of the Apes. He's the guy who gave us Gollum. I mean, what if he is a motion capture, being leveraged as a motion capture artist for this film, then you might see him as 3 or 4 different characters. But it would be interesting if they actually have him as a physical performer, because he's appeared in a number of films as a physical. King Kong, 13 going on 30. I mean, he's done live action films as himself. It would be kind of interesting to see him do that as well. But I'm good. I'm good with whatever they decide to do. So once again, folks, thank you so much for joining us for this premiere installment of AMC Movie News Top 5, counting down the top 5 stories of the week. Hey, listen, jump in the comments section here and let us know, what would your top 5 movie news stories of this past week have looked like? How would you have ranked them? So leave your thoughts on any of the stories we talked about, maybe which ones you think we left off the list that should have been on the list, things we did put on the list that shouldn't have been there. Let us know your thoughts. Listen, folks, great time right now to head on over to AMC Theaters .com to get your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Lots of great films playing in AMC Theaters. And listen, if you want a question put on the AMC Mailbag Show or AMC Movie Talk, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can also tweet your thoughts, questions, and comments to us. If you got things to share, you can tweet to us at AMC Movie News. Make sure you follow us on Twitter there. And I want to thank, first of all, the guy joining me today for this premiere installment of AMC Movie News Top 5, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero and on YouTube, ThinkHero Pro.
And you can find me on all the various social media channels at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News Top 5. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.